New for 96. With your hosts, Kevin McCauley and Chris Nguyen.
Chris? Sorry, I keep saying Chris, and it's both of you.
Oh, that's gonna be
it's just a habit.
Wait, we should respond in unison every time. Yes.
The Chris's.
The Chris is squared.
Chris's. Okay. Also, I heard you call this a cabriolet earlier, sir. That is a speedster.
Did we?
I think so. I wasn't paying attention, so.
I don't think it was brought up.
I heard cabriolet.
I
You
mean,
like
it's definitely a
saying?
speedster.
I know it wasn't Kevin because he likes saying vert now that he knows BMW people, which is the worst.
Is that
It's
what
easier
BMW
to
people
type.
say?
They say
It's
vert.
easier to type. I don't associate with that BMW term.
Yeah,
but you
but
have
it's
to
even
but you
easier to
have
type.
Yeah, but with vert, you have to type the apostrophe
That's
first.
true. Otherwise,
You don't.
you're just a
Apostrophe vert.
douchebag.
You don't have to.
I actually don't know what like the official style is for that. I did learn recently that like if you write vet or the way we write it in the magazine, it actually is no apostrophe. It's just capital V for vet.
Whoa.
Did they
Weirdly enough.
trademark that?
Chevrolet, I would imagine
I'm
they
sure
do.
they have. I'm sure they did because I'm sure there's some Hawaiian shirt that says vet and they got to make their dime. Trust me, I've dealt with the GM licensing people. It sucks.
That's
They're
true.
awful.
That's true.
So there we go. Vet, but vert you have to use an apostrophe lest you
I'm
be
just making up
further
rules
judged.
right now.
Oh no! I think these are AP rules official in the book. It's a
Do you think
cabriolet.
Do you think Sebastian Vettel has a vet that says vet L?
Apparently, he bought a Williams FW14B, which is
It's
actually
so cool.
super
Oh, wow.
rad.
It's so cool.
I know you don't love Vettel, Kevin, and I understand why.
No.
But like,
Okay, I would. We're not gonna make this about F1, but I will say like I like him like as a person, as
Yeah.
like like he seems to like almost be an activist in some senses. He seems to really love the history of the sport and the records and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
yeah.
I just think he's like past his peak, and I just am like it's
totally,
like
yeah.
I just haven't enjoyed. I will always hate whoever's driving a Ferrari. Also,
that's the big issue. But yeah, I mean, like I heard that Williams was selling stuff, so like, yeah, why not buy like the coolest Williams?
yeah, that is so cool.
The active suspension, like
Yeah,
the best
and
one
it's a
they
newie
made.
car.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
My only understanding of F1 is the different levels of handsome the drivers are. So feel free to start that conversation up. I have opinions.
Name one current F1 driver.
Leclerc.
Okay.
He's very good looking.
All right.
He's
the
very
best
handsome.
looking one.
Yeah. I'm very into it. I have his baseball card. I have them all.
Oh God. All right.
All right. Shall we start this? So, welcome to another episode of
New for
96.
96. All right. We're gonna
Chris,
sync
you
that later.
were welcome to join in there, but I guess not.
I did it the first time I was on the pod, and you
Yeah.
guys said it was just for you two.
Well, I wanted a chance to berate you, so I guess we'll just miss out on that.
Yeah.
There will be other opportunities.
Also, he wasn't supposed to talk yet. Oh, my goodness.
We have to
So we
introduce
have
you.
a guest here. Chris Perkins is back.
We do. Chris,
Welcome.
Welcome.
Hello, good to be here.
We are multi-time zone today. Chris is in New York City. You're in what part of New York City?
Brooklyn, or
You're in Brooklyn.
specifically.
So you're actually 4
Parks-
hours ahead of us in Central.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Once you cross the
it's
bridge.
It's 11 p.m. right now.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the show again. Your reputation has recovered since, and you thought, why not give it another try?
Yeah. Don't
Why
worry.
not?
We won't tag you when we put this episode out.
We'll take a different
You don't have
Chris.
to be associated with it if you don't want to.
Yeah.
You can tag me all you want. It's fine.
What do we got today?
Well, we've got some topics here. Chris, as a recap, you are an automotive journalist. You have written for several publications, and you most notably recently interviewed someone of note, a G. Murray, or maybe that's a little too obvious. I don't know if we should reveal it yet.
Oh God.
Gordon Murray. That is very cool. And now
And
we
you
are
just-
1 degree closer to being friends with him, Gordon Murray. that
Yeah,
is.
well, you said you just spoke to him this week. So by the transitive property, we basically have Gordon Murray on the show.
We do. Yeah.
So we can just pass questions.
And you're wearing a Hawaiian
through you.
shirt just to commemorate, to channel him, I should say.
How come there's not Zoom foregrounds? Am I right? Where you could have like a different clothing.
Well, sometimes I take a Zoom background with me in it, and then I leave the meeting physically and just let my background sit there.
With like the Homer Simpson glasses.
Yeah, sleepy. yeah, the drawn-on eyeballs on the glasses.
Yeah.
You could do video backgrounds. Like you could do a GIF for a background. So like theoretically, you could have one where you like blink every 10 seconds or something.
That is
If you
true.
want
That is
to-
a good
if you
idea.
want.
I had never thought about that. I could be
Yeah.
doing something.
Yeah, early on in quarantine, I had a max headroom background until everyone at work got annoyed with me because I'd wear sunglasses in meetings and just have the max headroom going.
Like a GIF?
Yeah, just like
Oh,
I
that would be
downloaded it. Like I
insane.
downloaded a YouTube video of it, turned it into a GIF, and it was
Nice.
just like a max headroom. I mean, I could probably do it right now,
Oh, that's awesome.
Let's do
which
that.
obviously the podcast listeners will not benefit from
I
at
mean,
all. But
we do this
we're-
very often where we will talk
Yeah.
about something out of context that no one can actually see but us. Oh my God. Oh, there
Oh,
it is.
yeah.
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 You look like you're in an 80s Euro discotheque.
I mean, that's the idea. And then,
There you are.
and I just sit there like this until everyone got mad at me.
see, it's very trippy.
I'm wearing sunglasses for the listening audience.
Can't you hear it? So side note, so you guys watched Magnum PI, of course, right?
I actually never have.
Really?
I never have, but I did sit in the car,
Okay. Do you know the
as I've mentioned.
Yes, the Peterson, but you sat in it. You sat in the vault, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say I thought I sat in it too, but that would have required me crossing a velvet rope and then shattering the plexiglass divider to prevent people from doing that, which I would not be above doing. Do you know the character? Do you remember the British guy on there on the show, Basil?
Sure.
Like in Austin Powers?
No, what? On Magnum PI. Okay, so I was watching the videos of Gordon Murray being interviewed, and he looks like Basil. Like, I mean, it might just be British blindness in that all British people look the same to me. But he had the Hawaiian shirt on. He had, like, he's an older gentleman now. He looked like Basil from...
Okay. All right. We're going to try to
Okay,
right this
all right.
ship.
Oh, I guess we should get to the interesting part now where we actually talk to the person who talked to Gordon
Yeah.
Murray.
Oh my God. Okay. So we have, because of our laziness, and we talked about diecast models instead of anything newsworthy, we have not talked about the T.50, and I'm extremely excited about it.
Yep.
And Chris Perkins, not to be confused with the other Chris who did not have anything to do with the T.50, Chris wrote about it for Road and Track on the cover. Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And
Look at that. Wait,
and you
hold that back up again.
interviewed Gordon for it. And are you getting a pick?
I am. Got it.
Okay. So you interviewed Gordon Murray for this story, which I reread before this. Yeah, it's very cool. There was some details in yours that I didn't pick up from all of the videos and all the other media that I consumed from it, like about the steering, like the power steering, how it's basically fully manual above 10 miles an hour. That's really cool.
That is very cool.
Yeah, the whole car is just like cool little details like that you're like, oh man, I would totally do that if I were designing a car, but I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
right.
like it which is both as like speaks to the fact that Gordon Murray has very good taste, but also that he's a lot smarter than we are.
Yeah.
Or at least
Yeah.
smarter than I am. I can't speak for you guys, obviously, but
The theme
That's
that
about
I
right,
come back to about this car that's so cool is that like no one else has tried to best the F1.
No.
properly. No one has followed the formula, and he's like, either they don't understand the formula or they like can't do it. But I mean, it's more. And then he says it's more than just the sum of these parts. Like it's not just a V12 center seat mid-engine car. It's a whole philosophy to it. And
it's the driving
people either don't want to do
experience,
it or they're incapable.
Well,
of doing
because
it.
other cars, it seems like they were going for lap times. So versus this, which is, I mean, he's downplayed in all the videos. In interviews, he has downplayed that this is not about the track times. It will be fast, obviously, but this is about the driver's experience.
Yeah, I mean, all the documents they put out on the car, which you can just get on their website, like they put tons of specs on all sorts of things, and he's happy to talk about the nerdiest things. I don't know if it made it in the story or not, but like he was talking about how he's like figuring out the cross gate angle for the shifter.
Oh, wow.
You know, like what the degree between like second gear and third gear is, like what angle it is. Like he obsesses over every detail, and there are all these little details that he'll talk about and put in their press release, and then acceleration, he's like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, and that may be a claim. Maybe he does know, but like either way, it's like it's not important. Like, yeah, I'm sure it'll do over 200 miles an hour. The thing he told me is he's like, look, I mean, yeah, it'll do over 200 miles an hour, but like I never went over 225 in an F1. It doesn't need to be faster than that, which is like a ridiculous thing to say.
It's so absurd.
I love how he states he states these opinions like as like fact. It just doesn't need to be this fast. It doesn't need to do this. Like
right.
But the thing is, it will do crazy things. But he just is so like understated about the performance. And I always loved that. And I always loved the approach, the media approach of the F1. Is how it was just like, here's this amazing car. Like, here's, you know, you can find out what it'll do. But they didn't have all these claims. They didn't make these like bold proclamations. They just put the car out into the world, and it built this reputation on its own merit.
No, and it was never supposed to be the fastest car in the world, and that's like what made it famous among like more than just car nerds. Yeah. But like, I mean, he'll tell you like, yeah, it was fast because it didn't weigh anything. It had a really big V12, and it didn't make much downforce. So like, it was really fast, like, but kind of by accident, you know, like it was not like, oh, we are going to make, it wasn't like Bugatti where they're like, we're going to make the fastest car in the world, and it's going to be as easy to drive as a Golf, which I respect on
absolutely.
You know, in pure engineering terms. Yeah. The F1 was just like, no, I just want to make the best thing. Like, I don't like the numbers, the lap times, the 0 to 60s. And like, and all those numbers have become so much more critical now. And like, that's how you justify, I mean, we're, you know, the new mid-engine Corvette is here, and the biggest reason they say they went mid-engine is because they ran into a limit of acceleration figures with the front-engine car. And it's like, okay, so cool, you made a mid-engine car, and like I like mid-engine cars, but like that's not the reason to do it. You know?
Right.
And to be fair, I haven't driven the C8 much yet, but to my understanding, it's like a lot of my colleagues all kind of feel like the C7 was a more fun, engaging car because it necessarily was less about numbers, whereas like the C8 feels like, okay, they're more just going for numbers and going. And
another thing about the C8 is like when they say we ran out of acceleration, they're not talking about the one they make all the production run of. They're talking about like the ZR1 version, the most extreme version. So they're like handicapping the entire lineup to satisfy this one tiny slice of its market.
And doesn't it seems like it speaks to their targeted demographic, not the actual demographic that buys those, but like the people who buy the numbers, the people who will argue in the comments all day long about 0 to 60 times.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at a company like GM, you also have to like justify a really expensive bespoke car like that however you can. And like maybe a really good way to do that to the board there is by saying like, we're going to make it quicker than the last one. Like give us money to do a new one because it will be quicker than the last one. Whereas like to bring it back to Gordon Murray, he just says, I'm going to make a car because I want to. Like I'm going to make this thing because I think now is the right time to do an F1 successor. Like the technology is here, but like we won't be able to do this sort of thing forever. And like, you know, but he doesn't have to like justify it to anyone. Like all he has to do is just sell them, which he has. They're all gone.
Yeah, I think it's naive to think that the GM board would be swayed by saying something is going to be faster or better or higher quality.
I was going to say like it's just going to sell
like,
more.
Oh, we can sell more. Like, you know, but I'm just jesting. I'm like a huge like you guys know, I don't know if the listeners know, but I'm a huge McLaren F1 nerd. Like, I obsess over all these things. Doesn't come up much on the pod, but
Kevin, would the most extreme example of this F1 nerdery be that you once flew out to look at one that was for sale at a dealership and
Not
flew
for
back
sale.
the same day? Or was it on display at a dealership?
It was on display in Philadelphia. I went, as one does, to see the LM and came back the next day.
Oh, well, if it was an LM.
Yeah, it was an LM. And
Okay.
I didn't know how long it was going to be there, but it was there for like a few months. And they're like, yeah, the owner might come get it anytime. So
Come on down.
makes perfect sense. You're sidetracking me. But this car, yeah, like the T.50, I was nervous when it was announced that it would be like, how do you top the F1, especially with modern cars, with modern everything? How do you beat that? And without the might, of a company like McLaren, which still is, it's a small company. It still seems bigger than just Gordon Murray's firm based on everything I've seen. It's a small company. And I'm like, how do you do better than that? And how does it not get lost in the shuffle of hundreds of supercars announced every year, or at least dozens of supercars that are announced?
No, I mean, it's
obviously, my fears were completely unfounded because this is a game changer in every sense.
Your fears were totally understandable, though, because I mean, like, we write about, like, let's say half of the 1,000 horsepower cars because the other half are vaporware. We write about half of them, and no one reads about them, honestly.
But
because,
even then, like, oh, go ahead.
No, because it's like there's just too many, and they don't make, like, McLaren again, and not to single out McLaren, but like, the Elva or whatever, they bring out these other limited edition things and just no one cares anymore. Like it's like you can't do too many of these things because like these should be like epoch defining.
Yeah.
And so many of them have so much horsepower. There are all these like crazy electric things where you've got 2,000 horsepower electric cars where like that number is just abstract. Like we can't relate to 2,000. Like it's like that's not even a real thing. Like and half in those cars, it's like, are they ever going to become realities? Whatever. And then Gordon Murray says like, nope, manual V12, like driver's car. It's like it's so different than everything else.
Yeah,
it's very similar to the F1, but it's so different than everything else. And I think everyone was just like, oh my god, that's the thing I wanted, because that sort of thing doesn't exist anymore.
That's just it, right? The fear was that they were going to make it in the image of the modern day supercar, which is just make it fast, make it computerized, and it's just basically it's a meaningless. Well, in this case, it's not an F1 like reboot necessarily directly, but it's a revival of the idea.
Well, I never worried he would do just like the normal contemporary thing, but I thought he'd run up against more limitations. But I was completely wrong, because even though we've been told for 20 years that making a car like the F1 is impossible in the modern age, like he made this 300 pounds lighter than the F1. Like it's 2,100 something pounds lighter than like, a Miata.
Yeah, it's like just under 2,200. Yeah, I mean, when one of the first times I interviewed him, he's like, "Yeah, it's a Lotus Elise with a V12." Yeah, like
that's that's so cool.
And it's like, oh my god, that's exactly what the thing is. But yeah, I mean, it's also like the modern technology can help, because like the processes to figure out how much carbon fiber you need for certain body panels are way better than like in the 90s, where they had like really basic computers and they were kind of just guessing in a lot of instances. The engine is like, you've got the might of Cosworth to figure out like, okay, how can we extract 660 horsepower out of a 4-liter, a tiny V12, like that. Like actually the modern technology can help you build this sort of thing. But yeah, I think just other people, it's just, it's what happens when you have like more people working on it, when you have, board members do. And I think a lot of people do buy cars on numbers. I mean, certainly like that does, like numbers do sell cars, but I think there are people in the car world who now realize that like the numbers kind of become irrelevant, like as they get either smaller in terms of acceleration or bigger in terms of weight or power. The numbers sort of, and I mean, modern supercars are, I mean, I'm very fortunate to drive modern supercars to work, but like most of them, it's like you can't, the numbers don't matter,
right?
And like some of the sometimes you can kind of like the modern performance cars can leave you kind of cold, because it's like the limits are so high, the performance is so high that you can't really use it.
Yeah.
Right.
And the fact that it's X amount of seconds quicker around the Nürburgring or
What does that mean? Like
whatever.
when you're sitting behind the wheel, like what does that mean that it was the fastest around the Nürburgring? Like, or that it does 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds? Like it doesn't matter because you're not. It's irrelevant in a way. I mean, I guess people are buying the sensation of owning something that can do that. But even then, again, yeah, like you said. Oh, go ahead.
The numbers are this extreme performance that is almost in itself abstract, to use Chris's word, is like a consolation for like, well, the cars have all gotten number, but it's really fast and really grippy. You know what I mean? It's like, I'd rather have something that feels more, and isn't quite superlative performance.
Yeah.
Right. And not to say that like Gordon Murray is the only one making that sort of car today. Like we talk about the new Miata. The new Miata is a perfect example of like, it is not a quick car, but like it is amazing. It's the sensation of driving. Like they really nail it. I just drove the new 718 Spider a few weeks ago. Again, like it's a very fast car, but like but just driving it like slowly is still fun.
Yeah,
like so there are people who get it, who know that like the numbers kind of like you can chase the numbers, and it's there's certain numbers that are worth chasing, but at the end of the day, like you just have to build something that is fun.
And at the end of the day, like people want to work for it a little bit, and that's part of the enjoyment. Like, is if you're just sitting there and pushing buttons, and you're just launched into the horizon, it's the roller coaster sensation. Oh, it's fun. But it's just kind of one trick in a way. But
so I have a couple questions for you, Chris, very
Sure.
briefly. That I wish I had. So next time you talk to Gordon, maybe if you don't know these off the top of your head, you'll have to just
next time you gab
ask
with him.
Hey, Can I talk to him this week?
Legs up in the air on a bearskin rug. Hey, Gord.
So
we did video chat, which was very exciting.
Oh, that's so cool.
Which was very exciting.
So cool.
Yeah,
that's amazing. So you said, I asked about the rev counter, the TAC, because in 2009, Lexus famously said that the LFA TAC had to be digital because you couldn't possibly make an analog TAC rev fast enough. So that was bullshit, right?
I guess so. This is what Murray says. I don't know if the technology for analog TACs has changed, or if you just have like a super light needle that allows it to be super. But the thing revs the thing they're saying is revs 28,000 revs per second.
Wow.
Like revs to red line, like 0 to red line, or I guess idle to red line in like less than a second. So, but it has an analog TAC. So
that is cool.
They'll make it work. I mean, obviously, like the car that they showed us isn't quite done. Like it's still a show car, But
maybe for Lexus, it was like, because even though that was an outlier in what they usually produce, it was still about reliability, and like the servo or whatever that does the TAC, maybe on the 1,000th try, it like launched into the cabin.
Maybe,
So they went digital.
Okay, so you said that the I'm not like grilling you, by the way. I realize it sounds like I'm like putting you on the spot, but I just want to know more. And I came up with better questions after this fantastic media cycle where everyone was talking about like the purity of this thing, and just everyone was like, this is just it's so good that this exists. Like everyone's like, I am against something that costs $2.8 million that's a car for just a select few, but it's such a good thing that it's like it's okay.
Yeah, right. And I mean, like, and he's pretty honest about like, that's just what it costs.
Yeah,
exactly.
Not like he's like, we're not making a ton of money on these.
Yeah.
Like we'll make I hope we'll make a bit, but like he's like, when you do a new engine, a new chassis, a new gearbox, new
all
switch,
bespoke.
Like, right? When the entire thing, and even the F1 had E34 5 series turn signals and things, and like this doesn't. Like this is 100% bespoke.
Rear lights from a truck or a bus. And
so he's like, that's just what it costs now.
Yeah, but it's not it's not like a product of opulence either. This is just like an engineering exercise, and this is what the engineering costs on this thing.
Yeah, it's not like there's not a luxury car markup on it.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, it's got a V12 that we're going to put into 100 road cars and 125 race cars. Like, that's expensive.
And it's
Like,
it's an interesting it's a benchmark in a way, but it seems like he always reiterates that like this is probably the last of this kind of car.
Yeah, I wonder about that. He says he won't do another one, which is like fair enough. I mean, he's in his 70s. He's got other things he wants to do. Like, he's floated the idea of doing a much more affordable sports car, which signed me up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder. I think the manual thing is going to become really hard because eventually, like, I had this conversation with a friend. They pointed out that like once autonomous emergency braking is like mandated worldwide, that pretty much is the end of the manual because you can't have something that like would break the car to a stop and stall the engine. Unless you did, I guess Hyundai is doing this now where they have like a fully electronic clutch.
Yeah.
So you could theoretically, like the old Porsche Sportomatic,
Yeah.
like where
Yeah.
like that might be the future of the manual, but like that might be the only future of the manual.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there'd be something like just as there's rev matching, there'd be some kind of way where it like
If
you
anything at
just
all,
have to make
it's-
go into neutral or
it would have to
something.
be a by-wire clutch pedal,
Yeah.
and it would just have to be able to like the car would
Or-
have to be able to dip the clutch itself. And,
somehow just
yeah.
like hold, or maybe like it would have to be some sort of bypass in between, I guess.
yes,
So he says, like, in a rare boast from Gordon Murray, he's like suggesting that this is, the best V12 ever made, and
Yeah.
possibly the last, or probably the last great V12, because it's like who's gonna do the tooling and make a new V12 now? It's
yeah,
like,
unless you're going to spend millions of dollars and charge millions of dollars
Yeah.
for each,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was amazing from the article was that like the whole drivetrain, or maybe just the I think just the powertrain like weighs, like the engine and gearbox, it weighs like hundreds of pounds less than in the F1, which is part of that's like, a lot of that's new materials, and some of that's also like less displacement and everything.
yeah. But yeah, a lot of it's new materials, but yeah, it's a lot lighter.
So in the F1, a big thing where they saved a lot of weight that was like a big cost was, and they had to, this was like one of the things I think he had to get approved, where it's like, okay, it's going to be really expensive, but we need to do this for the weight, was it had a Nikasil exhaust. And
Yeah,
I wonder what like the modern best use is or what its material is.
See, they actually didn't say much about the exhaust in this. I mean, I would presume it's part of the engine, so it's all part of that lightweight. But I actually don't know as much about the exhaust.
Yeah, I mean,
of this.
it might be one of those things where he's not ready to talk about it, like see specific details. And the same
Yeah,
thing
like
with,
it's not done. Yeah,
exactly. Is the engine bay going to have gold heat reflective shielding?
I hope so. I think they
Yeah.
hinted at that, but
Did
I
they?
did. Yeah, in like one of the videos, I watched
That
all
would
the
be-
videos, even though I like spent so much time talking to Gordon Murray and then listening back to my conversation with Gordon Murray constantly. Like, even though I had I almost got Gordon Murray fatigue when the car came out. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna watch all these videos and watch
Yeah.
every single hour-long video on the car just to learn a little bit more. But yeah,
I did. Yeah.
I don't know about the gold. I hope so, because it's just like, I mean, what it is cool is that the rear engine lid will open up like a Mangusta, like it's the gull wing sort of thing.
Ooh.
Yeah. For our one listener who might not know, for anyone who might not know, the McLaren F1 had gold heat shielding in the engine bay, not just because it was expensive. It wasn't
It was
for
just the
that. It was
best.
because it was the best natural heat reflector. And so it was
That's
this like
one of those
foil.
things
It
where I
was
feel like
very-
NASA or some equivalent entity has to have come up with something, but maybe that's just it. That could be
I
their
don't know,
limit.
yeah.
used gold on like the Apollo stuff.
Yeah.
That
They
was-
used the same gold.
That was over 50 years ago, though.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Whatever. I hope they use some gold. I mean, there's no lack of expensive
gold
materials in the car.
spray paint is just as easy. So if they want to do an
Exactly.
homage,
Yeah, but the paint would add weight.
Yeah.
that is, it would negate the thinner, like windscreened glass.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
I did like that what he said was that, there were some advancements that helped, but a lot of it was less technological and just that they can make thinner glass now and like smaller this and smaller that.
yeah, or a lot of it was, I mean, they do analysis on every bolt in the car. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, this bolt doesn't need to is not as under as much stress as this bolt. So like we'll make this bolt lighter and smaller than that bolt, or like that like this part of the carbon fiber monocoque isn't contributing as much to the structural rigidity as that part is. So like we'll just have fewer layers of weave in there, and so it's a lot of it's not. And I mean, he said like the engine and transmission contribute to a lot of weight savings, but it's a lot like the rest of it's all kind of really subtle stuff. Is not like crazy new technology. It's just like we have better analysis, whereas like it was a bit shot in the dark with the F1. Like the tub was all we couldn't save weight in the tub because we just didn't know how to then, because it was the early 90s and no one had done a carbon tub road car.
Exactly. Yeah, I think he said he was on a podcast either last year or early this year talking about it a little bit in abstract and saying like he has these meetings, which you talked about in your article, but it's like if someone wants to use like a 12 millimeter screw instead of a 10, they have to justify why.
Right. But it's he's so obsessed with the details, like in a way that is, but that's what made the F1 great. Was that just like we are not going to overlook anything.
Well, the cool thing about this whole, I keep talking about this media cycle, but it really was just like so positive, just like such a nice thing in the middle of this pandemic was just like see Gordon Murray thriving, his company doing like better than it's ever done, and this car that inspires us all. But one of the things, what were you going to say, Chris?
I was just going to say like I enjoyed seeing just like how down to earth he is, like for being the icon that he is. And even him joking, it's just, maybe it's just British humor, but he is just so deadpan, and like, it's just very entertaining watching him talk.
So the thing I've liked about this whole thing is I've learned new things about the F1 that I didn't know, like that the air conditioning was bad, and that there's
how would you know that?
I would believe that
exactly.
Like it couldn't match the blowing power of a Chevy Suburban.
Air conditioning was bad because it was powered off of like based on the rev speed and stuff. But I didn't know, he talked somewhere about how the sound was so good, not because the sound was not so much based on your revs, but based on your throttle angle. So he's doing that again. So it's like if you could be at like low revs, but you crack that throttle wide open and it's gonna just like howl like from that moment. And it's like it's so cool. Like no one really does that.
Well, the thing is too is like he's focused on like details and like getting everything in his life, but he's not above like I'm gonna work hard to make it sound good. Like if I can make it sound better, I'm going to. Because he gets that that's a part of it.
There is a part in either Driving Ambition or somewhere else I've read online where he talked about how, because believe it or not, he did have like an air-cooled Porsche at some point. And I think the only thing he maybe liked about it was that like the starting. And so the McLaren F1, the starter, it like, it didn't immediately like crank it, like kind of like did like a whir thing based on where it like kind of like the spark like hops around and then it starts. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was just really cool. Well, maybe I won't be able to find it, but it was just cool. But he kind of made the startup sound evocative of his old Porsche.
Kevin, do it.
Huh.
I can't
mimic the sound. You have an air-cooled Porsche.
Shut up. All right.
You know what it sounds like.
I think we've covered this.
Yeah. Oh, hang on a second. One last question. Okay. So when you were interviewed, how long did you have with him?
So actually the story is based on 3 interviews done over a few months because they were kind of like teasing out details. Like I interviewed him last December and then again in like the spring, I think. And then again, it was like early July, I believe. And I think it was probably I probably have like 5 hours of interview tape in total.
That's amazing.
That
cool.
It's
a lot. I mean, we covered some of the same ground, and some of it is like just kind of us just shooting the shit. Like I kind of because I like to like make people comfortable when I'm interviewing them, and also like if I can just talk to Gordon Murray about like other cars. Like, hey, what car? Like, tell me about like last time I talked to him, he told me about his new Alpha Junior GT Zagato, and like so I just like because like I'm interested in what he thinks about things and why he thinks things work or not, and so like a lot of it. So like not all of the 5 hours was like contributing to the story, but
Yeah.
was just kind of like,
Did you have
I mean,
B-roll Gordon, answer this: hot dog sandwich, yes or no?
no. I'm not there yet in my relationship with Gordon Murray. But
Soon enough.
one detail that actually I have that I don't think I haven't seen it reported, and we were gonna put in my story, but it got cut. Just too many words. Is that the throttle pedal on the T50 is titanium, while the brake and clutch are aluminum, because the titanium pedal is slightly lighter, so it gives you a different feel.
Oh,
interesting.
Like,
cool.
and that's the sort of thing I love, because it's like, wow, you really like, it's just so obsessive.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
See,
every
this,
little element
but
of the
honestly,
car.
when you talk about the price of the car, the amount of detail, that every interaction that you have with a car has been designed.
yeah,
I'm sure down
It's-
to the seatbelt click.
yeah. I mean, even he says I worked on getting the knobs to feel right. He's like, I don't
Yeah.
like when knobs have play.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He talked a lot about the knobs and how all the switchgear and everything is bespoke. I'm like, how is he doing this?
Well, that's why it's a $3 million car,
Yeah,
because it's
$3 million.
I mean, yeah, when he says it's a $3 million car, it's yeah, no, it's not just it's not okay, you're taking something off the shelf, or in a conventional modern super hypercar, whatever, you're taking
Yeah.
off the shelf stuff and saying, okay, well, we're going to charge X for it because we can, because we're you
Yeah.
know,
Well,
whatever company.
and-
But this is just what it costs. It's just what
Yeah.
it costs to build a car from scratch and to not sell very
and
many of them.
it's such a different proposition too, because there are other multi-million-dollar cars out there, but
Yeah.
when someone talks about a heavy-weighted knurled metal knob for the stereo or something, it's just expensive because it was the most expensive material, and this is purposeful. It might be expensive, but that's just because it serves this particular function so well.
Right. It has to do, it has
Yeah.
to be the best. It has to, everything, Gordon
not
Murray
just
has to sign off
because, yeah.
every single part of the car. And if anything isn't good enough, he won't sign it off. But that's what made the F1 so
Yeah.
special,
Yeah.
is it was just that, every element of that car was, I mean, obviously it wasn't perfect, but it was so close.
Yeah.
Nothing else came that close,
Well, cool.
Yeah.
The next time
Very
that
cool.
you're on a call with him, please conference us in.
Yeah, add us in.
We'll do.
My cat will be in the background.
I don't know if he's an animal guy, honestly, but
Yeah,
I could
don't
see
know.
that. I don't know. All right. The next time you guys do video conference, try to match the shirt. Do the Hawaiian.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be good.
I don't own any. That's not true. Actually, I own one Hawaiian shirt.
He should
There you
sell
go.
that. That should be part of the accessories catalog. Is
Oh,
the Gordon
yeah.
Murray Hawaiian shirt?
Yeah, I'd be dignified Tommy Bahama.
Yeah.
Gordon Murray.
That would be cool, actually, like a McLaren F1 or a T50 Hawaiian
Yeah.
shirt. I would actually wear that.
Oh my God. We should all buy until a cool Hawaiian car shirt comes out, we should all buy ironic ones with Corvettes.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of why I want to own a Corvette, like a Viper or something, so I can be
I think there I know I've seen a 350 a Nissan Z Hawaiian
Oh
shirt.
yeah, I've seen
Oh,
those.
God.
I would do
before.
that.
There has to be a Porsche one too.
Oh, I'm sure.
We're not,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
not immune from this.
Oh, by now.
Yeah. No. I don't know. Oh no. I don't know. I don't know if anyone would. Somehow that's harder to stomach.
It is, but it exists.
Oh, I'm
there
sure
has
it
to be one with
exists.
a bunch of 356 speeds.
This is just like a Google image shirt. Wait, Google image
search. No,
search.
I don't mean to say
Waiting
that
to happen.
Porsche's beyond criticism. I meant a Porsche one just seems like there'd be no humor to it. Like a Z one would be fun. A Corvette one is fun. A Z one would be fun. The Porsche one would just be humorless.
You can't
Just,
tell because Porsche people
I picture
don't
the people
have
wearing it
a
and I
sense of
just get
irony. So,
upset. Yeah.
all right.
So the next thing I've got on here is
cat neighbors.
Yeah.
I read
car
that as cat neighbors first. Yeah.
I feel like Chris and my neighbors are not important in this, and Chris Wynn and my neighbors,
No, that's what I meant,
cars are
yeah.
not important. But I want to hear about Perkins. What is it like in Brooklyn? What are your car like? What do you park near? What do you see all the time? What neighborhood
interesting.
are you
And-
in?
Just to preface this, Chris just got a car recently. Chris, it was a 987.1 Boxster base, right?
Yeah, just a base car.
Okay. So you're street parking that.
I am. I'm sure, like, if I ever go sell a thing, I'll bring a trailer and someone finds out that it was street parked.
They'll
I'm sure
just
they'll
Google
be-
Street View it.
But I can't remember.
Yeah.
How luxurious is the color?
It's midnight blue.
Oh,
with-
I thought it was lapis luxury blue.
No, but my friend just bought a 996 in lapis blue.
Ooh.
Oh, awesome.
And we parked our cars next to each other, and his is like so much more purple than mine. Mine's
Oh.
just like dark blue. Just
Purple is the
blue.
color of luxury.
It is.
It
I
is.
know this from pillows I've seen with tassels.
Actually, I drove a Rolls Royce Cullinan earlier this year, and it was purple.
Ooh.
It was like
Look at it.
very
See,
purple
it
too.
is-
Wow.
It didn't come across as purple in this.
Was that a 40th anniversary?
No, it's just a regular C2S in Vesuvio.
Oh no, it was the 40th anniversary was a 996.
Oh,
was
yeah.
right, yeah.
With a weird underline 911 badge.
Yeah.
On
Okay,
the
that's,
exterior and interior.
that's very
Oh.
pedantic now.
Yeah.
We've gone off
Anyways,
topic.
So sorry,
Yeah.
I interrupted you, but so
Yeah.
what's on your street? Anything good?
A couple things. I mean, there's a lot of normal stuff. Like I live in Park Slope, which is a sort of like I would say an upper middle class neighborhood with lots of families. So you see a lot of, but like kind of like cool liberal families. So like either they've got like Subarus or they've got Volvos.
Okay.
Actually, a lot of new Volvos, which I appreciate because they are very good looking cars. And
Yeah.
they're nice to look at. But in terms of more exciting stuff, there is a guy who's been parking a really clean Mercedes W123, like
Ooh.
totally standard issue 123, like beige 300 turbo diesel
Nice.
sedan.
Of course. Sedan?
Like it is like what's that?
Sedan.
Sedan. Yeah. So it's like every 123, like, but it's really clean. And he parked it behind my car the other day, and that was nice. That's
beige-
been my favorite.
The
That's
beige
cool.
always looks so good.
It does. It just suits that car.
My next door neighbor, I didn't even say I wasn't going to talk about my neighbors.
Right
My
there.
next door neighbor growing up had one in the beige. And so I just associate it with like an old man, and I don't like it.
Oh, it is.
Kevin
It's
has
totally
a lot
old
of like
man.
Kevin doesn't like Volvos or Mercedeses, but
I have no problem. I just have face blindness for 30 plus years of Volvos.
no, they're
It's
so
fine.
nuanced.
I don't dislike them. I just
You're talking
am-
like literally in the background of me, my screen. You see every car that we're talking about here. So we're talking about
Yeah,
a
that's
W123,
that's the cool Volvo.
the Volvo behind my head.
Okay, all right. We're not going to go into your models.
Yeah. But anyways, they're interesting cars, comma, Kevin.
All right.
Anyway,
Comma,
sorry.
Kevin.
Continue. We have interrupted you once again.
No, it's it's fine. I like the arguments. There's a guy who drives a Mustang 2 in my neighborhood.
Whoa.
Really weird. That's actually the coolest thing. And Kevin, you know this because you've lived here. That like the coolest thing in New York is that like there are a lot of like survivor cars that just people
Yeah.
still just street park.
Yeah.
There's like a guy who's there are a couple 80s Toyotas parked nearby. There's like an 86 Celica, like a gold, like in this like gold color that looks wild.
Wow.
There's a guy like a few blocks away from me who's got a 4-wheel steering Prelude,
Whoa.
which is really neat.
But,
a couple
like-
E30s.
Because
that
this
the
is
third
New
gen?
York.
Yeah, pop-up headlights, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
pop-up
yeah,
headlights
yeah,
with the,
yeah.
with the SI 4-wheel steering.
Yeah, it's the very angular
Yeah.
one. But or wedge like. But since this is New York, and you mentioned like survivor class cars, like there is no such thing as a good condition street parked New York car. At least from my witnessing, this is where the bumper buddy was invented.
Yeah. Some stuff holds up better than you would think. My
Yeah.
neighborhood's not so bad. Like occasionally someone will park too close to me, but like, I mean, knock on wood, I don't have any like dings on my bumper
Yeah.
right now. I do have a license plate frame that extends out ever so slightly. Some of them are really obvious. This one you can't tell. It's like it's kind of designed for that, but it's got a little bit of extra protection on the front just because the front license plate is the
Yeah, I once had
furthest
a
stuck out thing on
Toro
my car.
M235i that had it had a license plate frame that was basically a bumperette, and it just
Oh,
looked
like an
yeah.
accordion around it?
yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit. No, it was just thick rubber. It looked like engorged rubber.
Yeah.
It was unattractive, but it was like that or for that.
No, but cool cars do survive in New York. I mean, sometimes they're rusty, sometimes they're just dinged up and scratched to hell. But like, people just, they're just
They
cars.
just
I
have
mean,
them. I understand
yeah, I
that
mean-
if you don't move your car in street sweeping days, that the truck just goes over your car anyways. So
Yeah, they just drive right
yeah,
over it. So
yeah.
it's really key to, and you get a ticket.
Yeah.
So it's really key to make sure you move it before
Yeah.
because you don't want to get, a ticket and your car
And run
crushed.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be like
No.
running it through an automated car wash, which is kind of a Kevin and I joke because we unfortunately have become car wash nerds.
Okay, we're gonna stop.
Yeah.
I once had some cars parked, and the garbage truck was like trying to turn around, and like I guess it was blocked in on my street here, and so the garbage truck, whatever, just like lays on the horn just nonstop until someone comes and moves it. It's like, oh well, I guess someone would be here. You know what I mean? It's like if the car's there, someone's there, so
Did
they're gonna come
he-
out and move it.
Scream out the window, "I'm driving here."
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
banged
Yeah.
on the hood. He got out to bang on the hood of the car that was parked.
I mean, you have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the law.
I remember when I lived in New York, I didn't see it regularly, but I did see like a 70s Maserati Quattroporte in the West Village a couple
Hell
times. Which
yeah.
is like the weirdest, coolest thing. But see, the problem is in Texas, they're like anyone that is driving a car older than like 1998, it's because they're an enthusiast and they care about that car and they're passionate. Because here, like if it doesn't have air conditioning, so like the 20-year mark is when air conditioning either needs to be replaced or serviced or something. So
Yeah.
once your AC doesn't work, like the very impoverished people here, they can get like a Chrysler from 2004 that has AC, and so no one is driving something that's 30 years old unless they really want to.
Yeah, in New York, I mean, New York gets really hot in the summer. Not Gulf Texas hot, but it was 89 degrees today with
Yeah, no, it gets. I always say
gets-
that it gets hot for like. There's times in August that's just as hot as Texas, just that we have it for longer.
Yeah, ours just doesn't. We don't cool off at night. But and enough of the comparisons. But yeah, there are people in New York who have old cars that they're just those are their cars.
yeah.
Yeah,
That like they just bought an old car and they
Yeah.
just haven't replaced it,
Yeah.
and like, or at least that's what I think it is. But like you'll see in Manhattan, you'll see some like old 60s American stuff that's like that, or
Yeah.
now more you'll see 70s 80s stuff. In Williamsburg, you'd see like a lot of like Radwood era cars, just kind of like, but like that like weren't necessarily enthusiast owned. They were just someone's car, and like whatever, it works. Why get rid of it?
Yeah.
yeah,
Which is a kind of a neat attitude to have.
that's cool.
But yeah, so my neighborhood is pretty good. There's a Mercor somewhere nearby.
Oh, Max, I saw Max post that or
Yeah.
something.
He lives very close to me.
Nice.
So, but yeah, there's like a really ratty XR4 Ti. Trying to think of anything else that's neat. A couple of Porsches, but nothing like super exciting. There's a guy with a 997.2 cab. It's green, which is nice, but
Ooh.
and he'll park outside, nearby. God, I'm trying to think.
Some of
There
these
has-
people should consider purchasing a parking spot for $300,000.
yeah, or paying $300 or $400 a month to park your car when you could just park it on the street for free instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's where I am. Yeah, I mean, I feel kind of ridiculous street parking, but also like it's just a car. And that was kind of my attraction to buying a Boxster, because it's like they're still affordable, so it's like
So-
it's not like it is still just a car. Like I can kind
Yeah.
of just treat it like, even though Porsches have become so much more valuable now, especially older ones, like a Boxster is still just a car.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I want
Yeah,
to
there's less
have a
pressure.
Porsche. Yeah, I want to have a daily drive, like a genuine daily driver Porsche, like while that is still a real possibility.
Yeah.
you
That's
know?
awesome. That's awesome because you had been looking at some kind of like JDM cars, like a homologation, like Celica type of thing, or something.
Homologation?
Yeah, is that,
Homologation?
did I say it wrong?
It's homologation.
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 You've been looking at some rally type
Yeah.
Celicas and stuff. That would have been a little too special
Yeah, and I didn't know if I wanted my only
or
car to be
limited.
right-hand
Well,
drive.
not even more special, but like limited, like very like limited to like leave out on the street.
Yeah, I mean, well, there was part of me that thought it would be kind of funny to have like an Evo 2 that I just street parked, like, and just pretend like an Evo 2 was a normal car, even though
Yeah.
it's not.
Right.
But I couldn't really find exactly what I was looking for. There was nothing local. A lot of stuff gets rusty, and like
Yeah.
in the
Yeah, I guess
Northeast,
the
that's
winter
a real
is
fear.
definitely something to consider.
Yeah, you get like underside pictures of a lot of these JDM cars, and I know
Yeah.
Chris here, Celsior is not like this, but a lot of them you see them and it's like they can be pretty rough.
Oh yeah, I mean it snows in Japan, so
yeah, right. So it gets so
it's a
like
thing.
I couldn't find quite like if I wanted a really good one, it like realistically I was looking it was just more money than I had to spend. Whereas like I actually managed to find a Boxster that was very affordable on Craigslist that was very good.
I tell you, at the end of the day, I think you made the right choice because I will say, like with multiple cars, I'm glad that the Celsior is not my only car because it fulfills just one aspect of like my automotive enthusiasm needs. And I consider that as my daily driver, and I'm glad I didn't make it my daily driver. And I think the Boxster is a really good choice because it's reliable transport relatively, but it also gives you a good sense of occasion. It's a nice driving car.
I would totally recommend them to other people because it's like you can drive. Yeah, you can pretend like it's normal, and then you can like you merge onto a highway and you like let it open in second, and it sounds like a Porsche.
Yeah,
and it's like right. It's a Porsche.
Yeah.
And like, oh my God, I just remembered.
And like, I've been lazy Susaning cars, and I'm coming back around to like wanting like a 997. And I'd looked at Caymans, like 9872, like the one I used to have. But I've come to the conclusion that like that car fits exactly what I am looking for in just kind of like a puttering around town or spirited drive or just whatever. Like it's a good situation for what I want. So
it's not the most interesting choice. Like, I could have bought a Corvette for similar money or
no, you know what? I think you skipped ahead. I think you would have bought a Corvette and then you would have eventually sold it after like 6 months or a year. And then you would have gone back to like, I think this is like skipping ahead and just getting to the conclusion of what you'll eventually want in a car.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted like something like, even though like we think of a Boxster or Cayman as like a sports car, like a capital S sports car, it's actually a very good GT.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's less of a sports car than a Miata is, you know, but that kind of makes it more of a better daily proposition.
You've like two trunks.
I've got two trunks.
Compliant suspension. And you've got the 18-inch wheels or 17?
17s.
17s.
Nice.
So you got sidewall. So
70s. I have tons of sidewall.
Yeah.
A ridiculous amount of
That is
sidewall.
And the
Perfect for New
interior
York.
doesn't rattle as much. Or
It
at
rattles
all.
a bit. My
Okay.
soft touch paint is like gone though.
Yeah.
But that's mid 2000s cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know what to get
That's-
you for Christmas now. We'll get you new buttons for your climate control.
They're expensive. I thought about it, but they were like,
Oh.
I couldn't. I like saw like new OEM ones for like, of course, like $100. I'm like,
Yeah. It is. It's ridiculous.
and actually, you can't say climate control because it's just regular manual.
Oh
AC.
yeah, because
Because Porsche was cheap and they would charge you for climate control, but
Oh
nope,
my
I just have a
goodness.
temperature slider.
Some
Which
say-
is fine.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
Some say that is for weight savings, but we'll leave it at that. So
Sure. Sure.
Anyways, so moving on to the next topic, a new
Did you guys
huh?
see that S-Class?
The new S class has come out, and we've got opinions on that.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of the S class as an icon of executive transport. And if you trace the lineage far back before it was even an S class, it was always kind of a car of distinction in a way, even when it was just meant to be discreet transport to be driven in. Anyways, so why don't we kick it off? Chris Perkins, what do you think of the new S class?
I agree with you on being a fan of the S class as an institution.
Yeah.
And the only S class I've ever driven was the outgoing generation, and it was excellent. It's a fantastic car, for like if you want that sort of imperious, great luxury thing. I think the new one, I don't know, it looks good, but it's like it's too evolutionary.
Yeah.
It doesn't look different enough than the last gen, and like it kind of looks worse in some ways. And like every generation of S class, like every new S class should be like a big deal, and like this one's got crazy all new tech. I mean, apparently a lot of the platform, the chassis, the hardware is new, but like it just doesn't, it looks like they just like it looks like a very heavy facelift.
It looks like a big A class.
And also, a lot of
Yeah.
this stuff looks like it's coming from like the GLS
Yeah.
or something. Like I feel like some of the stuff
right.
we've seen in the GLS, where I'm like,
So-
oh, we're getting like a car version of that now.
So
okay,
Yeah, right.
I
right.
named this topic trickle up economics of luxury cars because
I was a little confused by that, but now I understand.
so like I mean I call it a big A class because the A class came out first, and
Yeah.
it kind of seems like the S class is now just they don't really care if it sells. It's just the default choice, and they design the volume sellers, the A, the CLA, the C class first, and they know those will sell and make money, and then they're like, okay, well now we need to make the S class look like something. I'm gonna go ahead and place the E class into that category as well. Like we need to make these cars look like something, so just upscale the upsize the smaller ones.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine. Well, on the business side of it, they definitely want this car to sell because it's very profitable, and they've been not been very profitable over the last year or so because of COVID and other factors.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird that like the A class is now setting, and like the A class is a fine looking car. It's not bad. It's not the best looking thing that Mercedes makes, but yeah, it's like Mercedes. I think I always loved S classes and SLs because it was like, this is what Mercedes is.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
these were the best cars and everything else trickles down. But yeah, now it's kind of like everything is kind of just
Yeah.
trickling up or all
And
over the place. It kind of looks like CLS. It sort of looks like some of the SUVs. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't like, and I'm fine with Mercedes making understated cars because that's what Mercedes
Yeah.
does. And you know, like,
Discreet is fine. Like understated, discreet is fine. And this is that proposition. It's not meant to be a 7 Series where,
Yeah.
you know, it's just garish. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just so undistinctive. And maybe in the past, like I think about like the 126 generation, and there was just something grand about that car, and that was understated too. And
yeah. The problem
Right.
isn't that it's understated. I don't expect the S class to be groundbreaking, but I do expect it to be drawn in a deliberate, like confident way. And
Yeah.
this doesn't. I don't get that at all from this. Like the headlights are just kind of like a blob. And the grill is like a big Mercedes grill on just
Protruded.
an car.
it's just a
Yeah.
little
And-
too big. And
yeah. Like it's a big
From
grill
the
on a
si-
car. I
from
don't
the side, there's
understand.
nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't expect it to be like radical. I just want it to be like purposeful.
Yeah.
And they didn't deliver
But,
that.
See, and here's the thing is that like also they talk about, like, you know, there's been the argument that, well, you know, the S class is not about the exterior, it's about the interior because, you know, you're kind of driven in it. Except at that point, why not just buy like, you know, a G90 or something if you don't really care what the outside looks like.
So what do you think about the interior? Because I'm going back and forth.
I think it's really flashy, which is weird. Like it's very shiny, and there are a lot of screens, and they make a big deal about the screens. Like
that's kind of the way that Mercedes has been going with interiors. It's like super subdued exterior, and they just go nuts inside.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if like going touchscreen only is the right move. Like it's cool, but I don't know if like functionally it's
I don't think it's.
better.
Here's the thing: is that it's so inelegant. Like the way they've even there are
Yeah.
ways to do screens, but have you noticed like the gauge cluster screen, the LCD for that? It has like a 2-inch bezel. It's just so thick, and I don't understand
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Like the screens don't look purposeful. They are just
And
like
it's
here's
just
a screen, here's a
replicating
screen, here's a
gauges.
screen. Yeah,
So
Yeah,
it's like,
you-
you know what would have been better and never has an issue is gauges.
yeah.
Well, actually, not to be all Porsche, but the Taycan ruined digital gauges for me because that gauge cluster it's so simple, but the fact that it's curved
That's the thing.
is
So
like
I was gonna
such
say,
a game changer.
that
It's like
it's
no
cool.
bezel,
Cluster-
curved, simple,
That's
beautiful.
exactly what I was thinking
It's
about because it's
cool.
also like an edgeless bezel.
Like
Yeah.
that's what it should be. Like
Yeah.
that's what the S class should be. It should be understated, but also forward looking. And whereas this is just
Right.
like we put a big screen in it, you know.
Yeah.
And like I'm sure it'll be nice. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm curious, but like
it's got
but
lots of
also, like,
quilting. Got to have the quilted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you made a good point, Chris. Like the S class up to now was always like, this is the future, but it's so expensive right now. We can only put it in the S class.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
car, you don't really get that. It's like, oh, it's a big screen. That big center screen doesn't bother me aesthetically if that was only like the map and stuff, because it's like,
Yeah.
well, I kind of am like weirdly into how it's integrated, and I like how the rest of the dash looks like around it, like floating beneath it. But the fact that that's all of the controls are going to be on this screen like sucks. Like luxury is having an actual button and a knob and stuff that like,
and they'll say like, oh well, use voice controls. Like you could use the voice controls to set the temperature, but no one is doing that.
Can you
like,
imagine?
First of all, don't work that.
Go ahead.
No, I was done.
Well, I was just gonna say. So, do you know what the activation phrase is?
Mercedes.
Hey, Mercedes. It's so many syllables, and it's so dumb. I would feel so embarrassed even though I was just by myself. Like, hey, Mercedes, do this.
It's like literally you show it off to your friends, and then you never use it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
it's knobs and buttons are kind of nice, and I mean, and actually we were just praising the Taycan for having a great gauge cluster, but that has digital screen for the HVAC, and that feels really gratuitous to me because like it doesn't.
But I will say at least
it's less gratuitous than the Mercedes because that screen is enormous, but
on the whole though, what I like that the Taycan, like the interior is simple until the car is on and the screens are kind of on, and it kind of like finds a balance between like, because even when the Mercedes is off, it's still shiny with a lot of detail like everywhere.
a lot of chrome.
I kind of wish they went the way of like Bentley or Rolls-Royce.
Well, there's chrome, but then I saw versions of like the sport version that had carbon fiber. I was like, oh, give me the chrome. There's nothing I don't want more than an S-Class with like acres of carbon fiber in it.
Oh,
I don't like any carbon fiber trim, but like in a luxury car, like a proper luxury car, get it away. Like,
what is the point of that? A luxury car is supposed to be heavier, so you don't want carbon fiber
like
mucking that up.
It should have walnut. I don't want maybe like brushed aluminum just because it looks cool and it feels cool, but like really it should be walnut.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
like whatever's the heaviest wood you can mahogany, just the heaviest wood with just like the gloopiest lacquer on it.
The last thing, okay, so on this, and I just learned this, and this is not new news, but the infotainment system, how do you think that's pronounced? And do you know what it is? Okay, because for
sorry,
a while,
I kind of ruined the bit.
Yeah,
what's the difference between that and command? What's
command?
It was an acronym, right?
Yeah, it was. I don't even know what the acronym was, but yeah, like this. Every time I read it, like, and it wasn't until I read an article where someone spelled it out like Mercedes-Benz user experience, and I was like, one, that's kind of a convoluted name, anyways. Just knowing the profession, but I always thought it was like M-Bucks. That sounds really dumb.
M-Bucks.
Yeah, I always thought it was M-Bucks. It's not. Is it not M-Bucks?
No, it's MBUX. I was told like when the first whatever the first car that had it came to the US, I was like at the premiere and they said like it's MBUX. And
yeah.
I was like, that's a bad name.
I thought it was just
like
really
again,
good incentives. Like you get M-Bucks back when you buy a new S-Class.
But it's only money that you can spend at
Sterling
the
McCall Mercedes.
It's the only you can only spend it at the Mercedes gift shop.
Exactly.
Now, so
exactly.
Like itchy and scratchy dollars.
Yeah, right. I mean, but hey, I mean, is that not Mercedes tradition, giving cool things weird names, or like even not cool things, just like all of your products have really weird names?
I just like how all their things had all these names that were trademarked all caps, like ask off, like only in all caps, like in all the materials, just in a sentence, but it's all caps. It's shouted at you. Command and M-Bucks.
Kevin's favorite is 4-speed automatic.
The Formatic. Formatic is the worst name for anything, but you brought it up, not me.
My favorite is when they started using, I think this is like in the late 2000s, they started using Magic for a lot of things. So like
Sky Control.
Magic Sky Control, which was just like a electrochromic with a sunroof, which is really cool. It's a really cool thing. But like, cool. Magic Sky, or they like, I think their like active anti-roll system where it like uses a camera is Magic Body Control. Which is just like, who came, like, it's so weird.
It is
just
weird.
Should have sued them.
It is really weird. Also, all of the Magic stuff is the most expensive stuff to fix when it eventually breaks.
Oh yeah, surely.
Imagine shelling out thousands of dollars to fix something called Magic.
Magic Body Control. But so in that context, though, MBUX is I think an appropriate name.
Yeah.
Appropriately.
I think it might be. Yeah. And on to newer cars, newer by hours. The Aston Martin Victor, which I imagine is not short for victorious, but a guy named Victor. So
It's named after a plane.
Is
a
it?
bomber?
Is it really?
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
makes
it's named
sense
after a
because-
British bomber called the Victor, which is I
British.
only learned about today, but it's really weird looking. It looks like, you might know this, Chris Perkins.
The car or
it
the
looks
plane?
like I'm talking about the plane. It looks like a Bell X1, but like if it was like on human growth hormone.
Like the car.
Okay.
It looks like the X1, which was the world's first supersonic plane, but like
Yeah,
it looks like that, but like jacked as a bomber. It's got the
Right.
same type of like grid windshield and stuff. It's super weird. Anyway. So yeah, the Victor was shown today. It's a one-off Aston Martin based loosely on, it's based on the 177 with a lot of the guts and suspension from the Vulcan,
Yeah.
which was also named after a plane.
I'll admit, like when I first saw the thumbnails like pop up on Twitter, etc., like from a distance, I thought, oh, this looks kind of interesting. Like it seems like something unique and cool. And then I don't know, clicking onto the details, I don't know if you feel the same, but I'm not a fan of it. Like it is.
No, it looks cartoony.
It's cartoony. It is
It's like
so
cartoony
much.
and awkward. It's funny because like everyone else I know, like online, was talking about how great it was. So I'm like,
I think
don't know.
they're in love with
doesn't-
the idea of it. I just don't know that.
The idea is cool.
Yeah, I love the
but
idea of it.
Yeah, the
The
idea is
execution
cool.
is just
yeah.
odd.
I think once your
It's-
eyes come into focus and look at the details, like individually, these parts are kind of cool, but then when you put them together, they kind of don't work. It's just
the proportions are strange.
Yeah.
and
It's very incongruous because you've got like the visual style of like the 80s or 70s like V8 Vantage,
Yeah.
which is the one that like a lot of people think looks like a Mustang or
yeah.
something. I mean, it's cool. It's really cool, but it's
it
got
does
this
look
kind
like
of
a Mustang.
here's
yeah.
the problem is that like now the Mustang owns that look so hard that like
I don't think that's the problem, but I think you've got this like this Brutus GT, and then it's like that aesthetic is married onto this like the most hardcore front engine car ever made.
Yeah.
Like where it's got the like insane like Vulcan suspension and all this stuff. Like it is just kind of weird. It's almost like a GTE race car, but with this like very blunt front and rear end that has like no functional
no.
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah, it is that. It's like, like Chris said, it's a cartoon. Like
But
it's
it does
just
seem like just a front. And I'm not looking at pictures of it right now, but it does seem like most noticeably like the very front and the very rear are insane. The rest of it's like
well, you can just look
hardcore
at this
Aston
picture
Martin.
in our group thread where the eBay headlights are being pointed out.
Okay, so I was complaining about the eBay headlights.
And that's not even it. That is not even
Not a joke.
a joke or like
No,
you're not
well-
even making. It is actually they are actually eBay headlights.
They are eBay headlights. So this is like a little bit of a tangent I have is like this is just increasingly bothering me whenever I see like LED headlights. In here we're gonna give it a pass, not talking about it, but like whenever I see, especially on like a classic car, it's like right now, think about this. Right now there are fewer 911s, classic 911s with eBay LED headlights today than there ever will be, because tomorrow there's going to be one more with LED eBay headlights, and the day after there's going to be more. And you see it on classic cars. I saw pictures. Max posted a picture of a classic P38 Range Rover with eBay LED headlights, and it's like, yes,
God,
there
I
are
didn't even know
worse
they made
aesthetic.
eBay headlights for that car yet.
It doesn't matter.
It's
same
the
one.
rest. It's the Resto Mod starter kit.
Oh God.
Yeah, and
You
yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
I will say-
I get the like. Yes, I know it would be nice if headlights worked better, but you've got to suffer for it to look right.
Yeah, but
No,
here's the thing.
yeah,
that-
exactly. It should look right. If you're gonna
should
if you're
look
gonna go
right.
old car, it should look right because you're buying the car because it evokes an era. And like you could modernize it, but like you shouldn't modernize the looks because it's not. It defeats
No,
the purpose.
it-
Or
like
defeats a lot of the purpose of having an old
If
car.
anything at all,
Yeah.
okay. I like yellow toned, yellow color keyed headlights in vintage cars. But if you need better visibility, I can understand like xenons. But I wish people wouldn't put projectors in there. Like if they could find a way to just put xenons in just for better light projection, but without putting like. It's such an aspirational thing having that like you have to
You're
have
saying
people
retrofitting xenons to an old 911 is better than. Okay, I'm not even
No, no,
gonna,
no, no. I am just saying, like, if you
What are you
really
talking about?
I am talking about like, well, we're talking about like the eBay headlights that have projectors in them, and they are very clearly retrofitted. But if it could look like a traditional H4 or H5 headlight,
Right. Yeah,
but with
I think there
better
are
light
ones
projection.
that there are ones that have like a fluted glass
Yeah.
cover over it, so it doesn't look so bad. That doesn't bother me
Jules's
so
car
much.
has that. Like
Yeah.
it's an H4 style light with a projector kind of buried behind fluted glass. So at the very least, from a distance, it looks like it fits.
Yeah. No, that doesn't bother me. It's when you have like the bare bulb. And so this Aston Martin has it is the same supplier that you could get this to put on your like old Defender if you wanted to ruin it,
or Jeep,
old Range Rover or whatever. And I don't know, but my distaste for this on classics is like spreading to where like I really hate it on the new G-Wagon. I think it looks so like just
that's the worst
nouveau
part
riche.
of that.
I just think it looks so nouveau riche. I think it's like just like how like studded LED strips look very 2007. Like we're gonna see these ring light DRLs, and we're gonna be like, oh, that was certainly of a time.
Yeah.
And I just think it really cheapens the whole thing.
Well, it's funny. I thought Jeep was going to do those lights with the new Wrangler, and then they did something kind of different, and it looks great.
What did they do? I can't remember.
It's got like a slash through it. So it has the ring around, but it has a slash through it if you get the LEDs. And it looks really good. It looks really good. And I thought that Ford was going to do it with the Bronco, and then they came up with that thing with the light kind of extends into the logo a little bit, and it looks really good. And then you see a G-Wagon, it's just like, ugh. And it's weird because like the rest of the G-Wagon, the new one, I think looks pretty good. Like not as good as the original. Like the proportions, it still looks like a cartoony version of the original because it's bigger and like, but like necessarily so. But I'm not a fan of the LED, the Restomod headlights. It's just I don't know. I don't even like Restomod Defenders. It just feels like so played out.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
I like the idea of like making a classic more usable, but like I want it to like still look like a classic. Like look of its time.
Basically, the Heritage Defender 90 was the ultimate iteration of that, where it was a modern one that retained vintage looks. But yeah, I agree with you. Like if a body style manages to last for 20 years, by no means should you ever try to update it to a car of the era in which like it exists in beyond its lifespan or shelf life. But here we are with those headlights. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Do follow us on social media at New496 on Instagram. And then we have a Twitter as well by the same handle.
All right.
And a Gmail. Kevin, what is the Gmail?
It's new for 96. 96 is spelled out. We'll go through it one letter at a time. And you know the rest.
Yep.
Chris Perkins, do you have anything to plug?
Road and Track. We're doing R&T, which is this new big fancy magazine. It's we're gonna do 6 of them a year. It's a really neat thing. So subscribe.
Very cool.
Cool. Awesome.
All right. Thanks for being on and thanks for listening.
No problem. Thank you guys. This is anytime. I'm happy to come back.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Thanks and goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.